One man's arrogance can become another woman's greatest opportunity. When my son-in-law screamed, "You have no say here," during a heated family argument in my daughter's kitchen, he had no idea that within 24 hours, I would be signing legal documents that gave me complete control over the very house he was standing in. What happened that Tuesday morning didn't just humble him, it saved my daughter from a marriage that could have destroyed her future forever. The tension had been building for months, until my son-in-law Kevin made one crucial mistake that turned my motherly concern into swift legal action. He threw me out of what he called his house, banned me from seeing my grandchildren, and told my daughter she had to choose between her mother and her marriage. What Kevin didn't realize was that his explosive outburst would lead me to discover financial documents that proved he had been lying to my daughter about everything, and those lies gave me the legal ammunition I needed to protect my family. If you want to see how a mother's determination can change everything in just one day, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think gave me the power to take control of this situation. Stories like this need to be shared with families everywhere. The people in this story will show you how quickly family dynamics can shift when the truth comes out. Kevin is 34, a successful car dealership manager in Jacksonville, Florida, but his fatal flaw is his desperate need to control every aspect of his family's life, including cutting them off from anyone who challenges him. That controlling behavior led to the biggest miscalculation of his life. I'm Patricia, 58, a retired real estate agent who spent 30 years learning every trick in the property business. What Kevin assumed was just a meddling mother-in-law was actually someone who understood contracts, property law, and financial fraud better than he ever suspected. Rebecca is my daughter, 31, an elementary school teacher who married Kevin 5 years ago and slowly watched him isolate her from friends and family. She loves her husband, but has been trapped between loyalty to him and love for her children and mother. And then there's attorney Michael Santos, the family lawyer who became my secret weapon when Kevin's financial house of cards finally collapsed. Kevin and Rebecca's house in the Riverside neighborhood of Jacksonville was supposed to be their dream home, a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial with a wraparound porch and a backyard perfect for their 2 kids, 8-year-old Tyler and 5-year-old Madison. But that Tuesday morning in March, standing in their granite kitchen while Kevin screamed at me, it felt more like a prison than a home. The argument had started over something simple. Madison had been asking for weeks to spend the weekend at my house, and I'd finally worked up the courage to ask Rebecca directly instead of going through Kevin. "Mom, I'd love for Madison to stay with you," Rebecca said quietly. "But Kevin thinks the kids should focus on our immediate family right now." Kevin walked into the kitchen just as she said this, and his face immediately darkened. "Patricia, we've talked about this. The kids have activities here. They don't need to be running back and forth to your house every weekend." "Kevin, I'm just asking for one weekend. Madison misses her grandmother. And I miss having my family to myself without constant interference from people who don't understand how we run our household." The way he said people made it clear he was talking about me specifically. "Kevin, I'm not interfering. I'm just trying to maintain a relationship with my grandchildren. Your relationship with the kids goes through Rebecca and me. We decide what's best for them, not you." Rebecca stood between us, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Kevin, maybe we could—" "No, Rebecca. Your mother needs to understand that this is our house, our children, and our decisions. She doesn't get to override what we decide just because she thinks she knows better." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm not trying to override anything. I just want to spend time with my grandchildren." That's when Kevin exploded. "You want to spend time with them? Then respect our boundaries. Stop questioning every decision we make. Stop acting like you have some kind of authority over this family. Kevin, please lower your voice. The children might hear. The children need to learn that their parents are in charge, not their grandmother. You have no say here, Patricia. This is my house, my wife, my children, and my rules." The kitchen fell silent except for the sound of the dishwasher running in the background. Rebecca's face went pale. In 5 years of marriage, she'd never heard Kevin speak to anyone like that, especially not to her mother. Kevin, that was completely inappropriate. No, Rebecca. What's inappropriate is your mother thinking she can waltz in here whenever she wants and question how we parent our children. I felt my hands shake, but I kept my voice steady. Kevin, I've never questioned your parenting. I've asked to spend time with Tyler and Madison, just like any grandmother would. Any grandmother would also respect that parents have the right to make decisions without outside interference. Outside interference? I'm Rebecca's mother, and I'm Rebecca's husband. In this house, that means I have the final say. Rebecca looked like she'd been slapped. Kevin, what are you saying? I'm saying that your mother has been undermining our authority for months, and I'm tired of it. Either she learns to respect our decisions, or she doesn't come around anymore. The room became so quiet you could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Are you telling me I can't see my mother? Rebecca asked slowly. I'm telling you that your mother needs to understand her place in this family. And if she can't do that, then yes, maybe some space would be good for everyone. I stood up from the kitchen table where I'd been sitting. Kevin, I think there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Patricia. You think because you raised Rebecca, you get to have input on how we raise our kids. But Rebecca is married now. Her loyalty is to her husband and children, not to her mother. Kevin, stop, Rebecca said firmly. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. And honestly, Patricia, I think you should leave. As I gathered my purse and headed toward the front door, something Kevin said kept echoing in my mind. This is my house. I'd been to Rebecca and Kevin's house dozens of times over the past 5 years, but suddenly I found myself thinking about the financial details I'd never paid attention to before. As a retired real estate agent, I knew that most young couples needed help with down payments, especially in Jacksonville's expensive housing market. When Rebecca and Kevin bought the house, she'd mentioned that Kevin had taken care of all the financial arrangements. I'd assumed that meant he'd qualified for the mortgage on his car dealership salary. But now, replaying our argument, something felt wrong about Kevin's proprietary attitude. The way he'd emphasized, "My house," struck me as oddly defensive. I sat in my car outside their house for a few minutes, thinking about what I knew about their financial situation. Rebecca made about $45,000 a year teaching elementary school. Kevin claimed to make good money at the dealership, but he'd never been specific about his salary. Their house had cost $380,000, according to the real estate listing I'd seen when they bought it. For a young couple with no family money, that was a lot of house. As I drove home to my own house in the Avondale neighborhood, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to find out exactly who owned the house Kevin was so determined to control. The next morning, I called my former colleague Janet Morrison, who still worked in real estate. Janet, I need a favor. Can you pull the property records for 1247 Riverside Drive? Sure, Patricia. What's this about? I just want to understand my daughter's housing situation better. 20 minutes? Later, Janet called me back. Patricia, this is interesting. The property at 1247 Riverside Drive has 3 names on the deed. 3 names? Kevin Maxwell, Rebecca Maxwell, and Rebecca Patterson. Maxwell's mother, Patricia Patterson. My heart stopped. What do you mean my name is on the deed? According to these records, you co-signed for the mortgage and you're listed as a co-owner of the property. Before I explain how my name ended up on a deed I didn't remember signing, and how this discovery gave me the legal power to completely change Kevin's attitude, please hit that subscribe button if you want to see how this family drama unfolds. Drop a comment below if you think Kevin knew about this situation all along, or if he was as surprised as everyone else. Your engagement helps stories like this reach families who might be facing similar controlling behavior. I hung up with Janet and immediately called my lawyer, Michael Santos, who had handled my divorce and estate planning for years. Michael, I need you to explain something to me. Apparently, I'm a co-owner on my daughter's house, but I don't remember signing anything. Patricia, let me pull your files. When did your daughter purchase this property? About 5 years ago, right after she got married. I heard Michael shuffling through papers on his end of the phone. Here it is. In 2019, you came to my office with Rebecca and Kevin. You signed as a co-borrower and co-owner on their mortgage. Michael, I don't remember this at all. Let me read you my notes from that meeting. Kevin Maxwell explained that they needed Patricia Patterson to co-sign due to his recent bankruptcy filing. Patricia agreed to help, but requested to be added as a co-owner for protection. My memory suddenly came flooding back. Kevin had filed for bankruptcy 2 years before marrying Rebecca, something he'd told her was due to bad business investments. He'd needed a co-signer with good credit to qualify for the mortgage. Michael, what exactly does co-ownership mean in this situation? It means you own 1/3 of the property, Patricia, and as a co-owner, you have legal rights that Kevin can't override. What kind of rights? You have the right to access the property. You have input on major decisions about the property. And if there's a dispute between co-owners, you can petition the court to resolve it. I sat in stunned silence as the implications hit me. Michael, yesterday Kevin threw me out of the house and told me I have no say in family decisions. Well, legally speaking, he can't throw you out of a house you partly own. And depending on the specific situation, his behavior might constitute harassment of a co-owner. What are my options? That depends on what you want to achieve. Do you want to force a sale of the property? Do you want to establish your right to access? Do you want to protect your daughter and grandchildren? I want to protect my family from Kevin's controlling behavior. Then we need to have a conversation about how property law can be used to address family dynamics. That afternoon, I drove to Michael Santos's office with a box of documents I'd found at home, papers from Rebecca and Kevin's mortgage closing that I'd kept but never really examined. Michael spread the documents across his conference table and walked me through everything I'd signed 5 years earlier. Patricia, you're not just a co-signer on this mortgage. You're a full co-owner with equal rights to use and occupy the property. Equal rights? Kevin can't legally prevent you from entering the house, spending time there, or having input on major household decisions that affect the property value. But it's their home. I don't want to interfere with their marriage. There's a difference between interfering with their marriage and protecting your legal rights as a property owner. Based on what you've told me about Kevin's behavior, he may be violating your rights as a co-owner. Michael pulled out a legal form. I'm going to draft a letter to Kevin and Rebecca explaining your legal position. But I also want to prepare something else. What? A petition for partition. It's a legal document that would force the sale of the house and division of proceeds among the co-owners. I don't want to force them to sell their house. You probably won't have to. Sometimes just filing the paperwork is enough to bring the other parties to the negotiating table. What would I be negotiating for? Respect for your rights as a co-owner, reasonable access to your grandchildren, and an end to Kevin's harassment. I thought about Kevin screaming at me in his kitchen, telling me I had no say in anything. File the paperwork, Michael. The next morning, Michael hand-delivered a legal notice to Kevin and Rebecca's house. The document outlined my co-ownership rights and included a petition for partition that would force the sale of the house within 60 days, unless Kevin agreed to mediation. Rebecca called me 20 minutes later, sobbing. Mom, what is this? Kevin is saying you're trying to steal our house. Rebecca, I'm not trying to steal anything. I'm just protecting my legal rights. What legal rights? I don't understand what's happening. Sweetheart, when you and Kevin bought the house, I co-signed the mortgage because Kevin's credit wasn't good enough. That made me a co-owner of the property. You own our house? I own 1/3 of it. Kevin owns 1/3, and you own 1/3. There was silence on the phone. Rebecca, yesterday Kevin threw me out of a house I legally own and told me I have no say in family decisions. That's not just cruel, it's illegal. Mom, Kevin says you're doing this to break up our marriage. I'm doing this to protect you and the children from someone who thinks he can control your entire family with threats and intimidation. What? Do you mean? Rebecca, has Kevin ever threatened to leave you if you didn't obey his rules? Has he ever said you have to choose between him and other people you love? The silence on the phone told me everything I needed to know. Mom, I can't talk about this right now. Kevin is. He's really angry. Rebecca, you need to come to my house. Bring the children. I can't. Kevin says if I leave with the kids, he'll file for custody and claim I'm an unfit mother. Rebecca, Kevin can't file for custody while you're still married and living together. He's lying to you to keep you trapped. 2 hours later, Kevin showed up at my front door, holding the legal papers and looking like he was ready for a fight. Patricia, what the hell is this? It's a reminder that actions have consequences, Kevin. You can't take our house away from us. I'm not taking anything away. I'm asserting my legal rights as a co-owner. This is insane. You can't sue your own daughter. I'm not suing Rebecca. I'm protecting myself and my family from someone who thinks he can abuse his position as a husband to control everyone around him. Kevin's face was red with anger. Abuse? I haven't abused anyone. Kevin, yesterday you screamed at me, threw me out of a house I own, and threatened to prevent me from seeing my grandchildren. What would you call that? I would call that setting appropriate boundaries. And I would call that harassment of a co-owner, which is a legal issue, not a family issue. So you're going to force us to sell our house because your feelings got hurt? I'm going to force you to respect my rights and stop threatening my daughter. Kevin stared at me for a long moment. What do you want? I want you to sit down and have a civilized conversation about how this family is going to function going forward. What kind of conversation? The kind where you don't get to make unilateral decisions about whether I can see my grandchildren. The kind where you treat Rebecca as an equal partner instead of a subordinate. The kind where you understand that threatening to leave every time someone disagrees with you is emotional manipulation, not leadership. Kevin sat down heavily on my front porch steps. Rebecca won't leave me. She loves me. Rebecca shouldn't have to choose between loving you and loving her family. If you're a good husband, you'll help her maintain those relationships, not threaten to destroy them. That evening, Rebecca came to my house alone while Kevin stayed home with the children. Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. What is it, sweetheart? Is Kevin right? Are you trying to break up my marriage? I sat down next to my daughter on my living room couch and took her hands in mine. Rebecca, I want you to be happy. If Kevin makes you happy and treats you well, then I support your marriage completely. But if Kevin is using threats and intimidation to control your relationships with other people, then he's not treating you well. He says he's just trying to protect our family. Protect your family from what? From people who love you? Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. Mom, he gets so angry when I want to spend time with you or my friends. He says it means I don't prioritize our marriage. Rebecca, a healthy marriage strengthens your other relationships. It doesn't destroy them. But he says families should be self-sufficient. Families should be connected to communities. Children need grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends. A husband who tries to isolate his family isn't protecting them, he's controlling them. Rebecca started crying. I don't know what to do. I love him, but I feel like I'm losing everyone else I care about. You don't have to lose anyone, sweetheart. But Kevin has to understand that marriage is a partnership, not a dictatorship. The next week, Kevin, Rebecca, Michael Santos, and I met in Michael's office to negotiate an agreement that would resolve the property dispute. Kevin, Michael began, Patricia has legitimate legal grounds to force a sale of the house, but she's willing to consider alternatives if you can agree to some basic terms. What kind of terms? Kevin asked warily. I pulled out a list I'd prepared. First, you acknowledge my right to spend time with Tyler and Madison without interference from you. How much time? 1 weekend per month and major holidays. Kevin looked at Rebecca, who nodded encouragingly. Second, you stop making threats about divorce or custody when Rebecca wants to maintain relationships with her family and friends. I don't make threats. Kevin, Rebecca said quietly. You do. And it's not fair. Third, we establish regular family meetings where major decisions are discussed as a group, not dictated by one person. Kevin was quiet for several minutes. And if I agree to this? Then I sign a document giving up my right to force a sale of the house, and we function as a normal extended family. What if we disagree about something, in the future? Then we work it out like adults, with mediation if necessary. Michael pushed a document across the table. This agreement protects everyone's interests while preserving the family relationships. Kevin picked up a pen and signed without another word. 6 months later, Kevin and I were sitting on his back deck, watching Tyler and Madison play in the yard while Rebecca graded papers at the kitchen table. "Patricia, I owe you an apology." "What for, Kevin?" "For thinking that being a husband meant I had to be in charge of everything." "What changed your mind?" "Watching how happy Rebecca is now that she doesn't feel like she has to choose between her family and her marriage." "Kevin, marriage is about building a life together, not controlling each other." "I know that now. I guess I thought if I didn't establish firm boundaries, I'd lose control of my family. The irony is that trying to control everyone is the fastest way to lose them. Rebecca told me that you could and have forced us to sell the house and split the money. I could have, but that wouldn't have solved the real problem." "What was the real problem?" "Fear. You were afraid that if Rebecca maintained close relationships with other people, she wouldn't need you anymore." Kevin nodded. "That's exactly what I was afraid of. But Kevin, the opposite is true. When Rebecca feels free to love her whole family, she has more love to give, not less. Today, 2 years later, our family functions better than it ever has. Kevin and Rebecca's marriage is stronger because it's based on mutual respect instead of control. Tyler and Madison spend every other weekend with me, and Kevin often joins us for family activities. But the most important change is in how we handle disagreements. We had another family meeting last night, Rebecca told me during one of our weekly phone calls. "What about?" "Tyler wants to join the travel soccer team, but it would mean weekend games that conflict with his time at your house." "What did you decide?" "We're going to try it for 1 season and see how it works. Kevin suggested that you could come to some of his games instead of having him stay overnight." "And Kevin suggested that?" "Kevin suggested that. He said family time is more important than sticking rigidly to a schedule. That's a big change from the man who thought he had to control every aspect of family life. He's learning. We all are." Kevin started attending family therapy sessions to work on his controlling tendencies. Through therapy, he discovered that his need to control came from childhood trauma, where he'd felt powerless in his own family. "The therapist helped me understand that I was repeating patterns from my own childhood," Kevin told me one afternoon. "My father controlled everything through threats and intimidation. I swore I'd never be like him, but I was using the same tactics. Recognition is the first step toward change." "Patricia, can I ask you something?" "Of course. How did you know that legal action would work better than just arguing with me?" "Because arguing with someone who's determined to control everything is pointless. But showing them that their control is an illusion? That gets their attention." "You mean showing me that I didn't actually own the house?" "I mean showing you that relationships can't be owned. They have to be earned." The day Kevin shouted, "You have no say here," he thought he was establishing his authority over his household. What he didn't realize was that his house, the symbol of his control, was actually owned by the woman he was trying to silence. When I signed those legal papers, I wasn't just asserting my property rights, I was teaching my son-in-law that respect can't be demanded, only earned. And sometimes the person you underestimate most is the one with the power to change everything. The most important lesson this experience taught our family wasn't about property law or legal rights. It was about the difference between authority and authoritarianism. True authority comes from wisdom, kindness, and earning trust. Authoritarianism comes from fear, threats, and the illusion of control. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and share it with families who might be struggling with controlling behavior. Comment below and tell me, Have you ever had to use legal action to protect family relationships? Your stories help others know they're not alone in these difficult situations. Whether you're dealing with a controlling family member or you recognize controlling tendencies in yourself, remember that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, not power struggles. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is show someone that the control they think they have is just an illusion. Because the person who thinks they own everything might discover they actually own nothing, except the choice to treat their family with love and respect. The Santos Family Law Center reports that property co-ownership disputes often reveal deeper family dynamics that can be resolved through mediation rather than litigation. Sometimes legal pressure creates space for emotional healing.